So today I'm going to show you guys a stock that I think could quite possibly be one of the most severely overbought stocks, at least in the near term. When we talk about stocks being overbought, it is important to keep in mind as a principle, and it's something I always talk to Clubhouse members about, is that gravity works just like it does around us here. It works in the stock market. So when something goes up too much, ultimately it does come down and mean reverts. And that's important to keep in mind as far as not chasing things higher into the stratosphere. Make sure you wait for stocks to consolidate, or in the case of what we're going to look at here in just a second, is basically giving us an opportunity to actually play the short side of it. So let's have a look at the charts.
All right, guys, so the stock I'm talking about is NVIDIA, NVDA. And this stock, if you look at it just on this multi-year chart, you can see what has been a fairly orderly incline basically off of those lows in 2013. Orderly incline and already quite steep, basically turned into an absolute monster vertical leap starting in the autumn of 2015. If we zoom in a little bit closer, you can see how this slope has constantly and steadily basically increased in steepness. And even though we did have a nice corrective move here last December into the February lows, we've seen a massive, nearly 90% rally off of those February lows of this year. And you can see how this last move here has been, we've now seen on a weekly basis, and of course this week here as I'm recording this, the first week of June is not yet over, but so far we've seen 3 up weeks in a row, like big up weeks in a row. So this gets back to my point from earlier in the video on gravity. The more a stock goes vertical after having already steepened, and this is the key point, after having already increased at a fairly steep rate, the more it goes vertical, the more dramatic ultimately the mean reversion becomes. If you look at NVIDIA here in the daily on this weekly chart in January, December into early February, I should say, you can see that the stock actually retraced 30%, and you know that's a pretty big steep retracement. So the same thing I think is happening again here. We look at NVIDIA through a daily lens now, and you can see if we make this a daily chart, how far removed this stock has now become from all its medium-term moving averages. So the 200-day, 100-day, and the 50-day. You can take this, a little bit closer up still, and you look at the 8 and 21-day moving averages. This stock has now been trading above its 21-day moving average since the 13th of May. So that's actually okay, that happens, but look how far removed it is even above its 21-day moving average, and how sharply upsloping these moving averages are. So this is a fairly simple way of looking at it, but I really believe you don't have to make it much more complicated than this. So in essence, what this translates into is this stock ultimately is going to mean revert. I'm thinking it's going to mean revert back into at least the low 40s from what I'm seeing here. Now, if you want to look at this a little bit more, also maybe from a momentum perspective, we can look at things like the MACD oscillator. This represents how far removed the stock is above its certain moving average, and the MACD actually right now is at its all-time ever overbought readings in the stock, even higher than it was in 2011. And just to kind of make my point, in 2011 you can see that this stock actually came falling down quite significantly after it was this severely overbought. I'm not saying that's the same. It was a different time, of course, in that company's orders history and trajectory and all that, but this stock now is certainly very overbought. So that's what I'm looking at here today, and I do think the stock here sooner rather than later is going to mean revert, as we would call it, fairly aggressively.
Also guys, please be sure to follow me on Instagram to get more free tips and tricks on how to become a successful active investor and trader. So follow me on Instagram.